covenant. All men and women created by go. You know the thing.
Walked in this place and said, wow, this is a huge dome. Bozeman's got it all right.
Stage 2.
Go.
Flight directors, go from push. We have liftoff. Vehicles pitching downrange. Execute. Vehicle supersonic. State separation.
You guys know what this represents? What it's the calm before the storm.
What's the storming?
Could be the calm before the storm. Thank you all for coming. Thank you.
What storm, Mr. President?
You'll find out.
Give us a hint on your decision.
Thank you, everybody.
Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to episode number 83 of Just Our Take. I'm your host, John. This is my co-host, Dave, and our guest co-host, but he's not really guest anymore because he's here. Elle, how you guys doing tonight?
Awesome. It's a great night.
Fantastic. I'll tell you what, I think, first of all, I am going to be redoing the intro. I've already started on it. It's now more important than ever that it gets redone. But I think we know what the storm is. I mean, look around.
Oh, it's delicious. I don't think we know what the storm is really. We know we're on offense now versus defense, and I love that. But I don't think the storm has yet to hit. I think the storm's still coming. Well, we're experiencing some of it, right? We've got some of the turbulence, some rain showers. Actually, it's snowing in Atlanta right now. But there is already the pushback, the fight. Oh, we're going to do everything we can to block these things. No matter how good they are for the country, we're going to get in the way of this bulldozer.
So did Marie actually say hi to Roger? I think she did. That's funny. I don't know. I'm kind of feeling like the storm is this massive barrage of gigantic. He's not doing small executive orders. His executive orders are like bomb drops. And so I think that's part of the storm is just like when he just dropped all of his cabinet members almost all at once, the same kind of thing. It's like where they don't even know where to attack. Elle, what was your favorite part of the inauguration day other than the obvious?
Well, being a Marine Corps veteran, I was so fantastic to see our president dancing with that saber before he cut that cake to the YMCA. Of course, all of the liberal media was having a freak out, because here is our commander in chief dancing with a saber. I thought it was fantastic to see him smile. He was enjoying the moment. He is all business, which is why we love him, right? We want a pit bull in our corner. But it was great to see his humanity and just smile. And I think he really had a good time. So for me, it was that and Carrie Underwood. I mean, what a professional, right? The audio doesn't work. And she goes, "Hey, everybody, let's sing this together." And she's just, in my view, a class act, number one. And she nailed it. So there's too many things there, but the whole day was fantastic. I think there's so many.
And all of her detractors tried to talk down to her. Oh, you should have had Taylor Swift there and everything else. Like good night. She was the perfect pick.
She was. And there's lots of messages about how Emhoff and Clinton felt about her. I did watch Clinton's eyes and full head wander as she walked away. So I don't think it's all made up. I want to share this image will probably say it all. So imagine Trump's up there and he's basically shredding their legacy, all the work that they did, all of their decisive acts to unify our country and democratize our country. And I don't know, what are the other buzzwords they've used? Wake us up because we got to become woke. And he just basically is one after another, and just like unapologetically, which is why I love him, which is why I think we love him. He's just so transparent and blunt. And here's another bad thing and a bad idea, another bad idea. This guy right behind me, you might as well have said, that guy did this one. This guy did that one. And I just love it. So that was, I think, probably my favorite part of the inauguration.
I have to agree. That was so on Sunday night we talked about what we thought the inaugural speech was going to be, and we also came up with some evidence or I guess someone else's opinion, Steve Bannon, someone close to Donald Trump, and Steve Bannon said this is not going to be the scorched earth that he did in 2016 or 2017. It's going to be more of a unifying. Yeah, it's unifying. It's unifying. Get on board or get out.
Exactly. You're either in or you're out.
I have to say though, the saber thing, there's a lot of people that are likening that to when he went over to Saudi Arabia and they gave him a sword and he was dancing with, the king and his, I almost said his court, but his members of the court, I guess you call it. And that was a war dance. And interesting because they contrast that to when Barack Obama went over there. He was not offered a sword. And, in fact, he bowed, if you remember, he bowed to the king. So.
And I think Biden gave him a fist bump, if I remember right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, his speech was a knockout. Not just in a great way. It was a knockout punch.
I agree.
He really did just go after these people and took them on head first, which, you know what? Sorry, sarcasm word is still there. I thought it was outstanding.
Okay, one other thing. While this was going on, I thought I saw this a few times, and Laura, other people from work, they think I'm crazy, but I'm telling you, I saw Clinton smiling when Trump was going on, and then this is going, and then this is going. I look back and there's Bill, and he's got a big gaping smile on his face. Meanwhile, you can see Biden just, but look, I think he was enjoying it.
Not sure Biden knew where he was.
Well, that's possible.
I mean,
And I'm telling you, Bill stood up to give one of the standing ovations, and Hillary's like, "No, you got to sit down. You can't do that.
sit down, fool.
Sit down, fool."
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of the only time that they stood up was when they talked about the hostages being freed from Gaza, and that's because they're taking credit for it. You know,
Right? Yeah. Look what we did.
yeah.
Look what we did. Look what actually I think the way Biden put it was at first was at least the one truthful thing he might have said. I'm here to report to you that hostages, that there's been an agreement on the negotiations have finalized and we have an agreement. Okay, that part was true. Now, everything that came out next was not true.
Right. Well, that's just like with the TikTok thing.
Yeah.
You know,
Same.
TikTok goes down. They're trying to take credit for it. Oh yeah, you know, we brought TikTok back, even though the people of TikTok said we want to thank Donald Trump. You know,
Just like Netanyahu said, we'd like to thank Donald Trump.
That's right. So,
Yeah.
Well, if I may, John, just one last point, which I thought was really telling of where we are now as a nation. You know, the media was kind of ushered in and out when we had Potato in power. We had President Trump literally signing EOs as he's answering questions, and he's focused.
Right.
He's like, "What am I signing here?" And they were talking about each EO, and he knew the background of it, and he's like, "Oh yeah, this one we talked about it a lot." And yes, let me answer your question and your question. And I mean, he is going at 1,000 miles an hour. And like I said earlier, I want a pit bull representing me as an American citizen. And we got one. And I mean, this guy he's going to be in the history books. I mean, 100 years from now, when we're all gone, you know, in America, you will have this time capture, this history. That's what's amazing, right? That our future will continue now because we have somebody who understands that we don't have to write a check for everybody outside of the country, right? Let's take care of our people. So yeah, it's pretty awesome. I was smiling from ear to ear throughout the whole day. I think my jaw still hurts from smiling. Not just to have a president that speaks very calmly about our society and our citizens and what's wrong in this country, but he's so committed and compassionate. You got to love that. I do. I think we're lucky to have him.
well, I think that some of the things that really stood out to me, and by the way, I kind of tried to keep off the air quite a bit because honestly, Mrs. John would tell you that I was tearing up several times during the day. You know, his speech too, because we'd been beaten down so hard, and not that nobody else can feel this, and I'm not trying to say that no one else can feel it this way, but as someone who spent 10 years of my life in the military and wrote a check up to and including my life, and by the way, that check's never expired. When you see people like Biden coming in there and Obama before him and all of the just tearing down our country and destroying our country and giving away everything that my brothers and sisters fought for, it was hard to take. And so to see someone like Donald Trump come back, who truly from the depths of his heart loves this country and will do anything to bring back the greatness that is us, and it had me tearing up a lot. So
yeah,
I agree, John. And I'll say this one last thing. It was great to watch him on all of these balls. They were doing all of these cheers and what have you. He had his Diet Coke. And I'm like, that's right. The boss is going to go in the middle of these balls. He's going to go and get some business done. I mean, what an awesome guy to just admire his tenacity about taking care of us.
So tell me, did you happen to love watching the military ball, where it was Commander-in-Chief ball, where they were all out there doing their little dance thing, and no disrespect to them at all, and they brought out the enlisted servicemen and women to dance with the first lady, the second lady, the vice president, the president. I thought that was just so telling of how much they truly love our service members.
Right. I understand they pick a tall guy for the first lady, which I thought was kind of funny. I saw a small video of the army. I think it was a sergeant, and he said, "Yeah, I was pretty nervous, and I was thinking of my wife, and I think the guy is like 6'3". I mean, the guy looks like a linebacker, which was awesome to see him in his uniform. But I agree with you, John. It was really nice that they never forget. They never forget to thank every American, right? And same with you, John. I feel teary several times throughout the day. I kept jumping up, surprising my wife, because I would say, "We are back."
Right?
It just felt good to smile, and we're builders. You heard Elon, you heard the president. We're builders. We are very optimistic society. We like to get things done. I mean, look at my background, right? That's
Right.
us, right? Stallone did it great about how there's nobody got a shot at the champ, and he made something of himself. That's the American spirit.
Yeah.
So I'm with you.
I like the interview with the troops from South Korea. I thought that was great. Also, they were like, "We prepared this one statement that the leader will read, and then everyone will cheer, and that's going to be it, right?" And Trump's like, "Well, do you have any questions for me?" And they were stuck.
They would. Oh no, trust me. Protocol would not allow any of them to step up and say anything with their commandant standing right there. There's just not going to happen. I want to show the video from that commander-in-chief ball, because as much as they brought a really tall guy out to dance with Melania, or the first lady, my apologies, look at who they brought out to dance with.
JD.
JD Vance. Oh goodness gracious, gotta love it. Well, let's get some music here.
Army sergeant who danced with Melania Trump at the commander-in-chief ball on inaugural night.
Oh.
Live from
I almost missed it.
cut in on the president and gave the first lady a twirl. He's Sergeant Henry Waller.
When I walked on stage, I was trying to contain my composure, but we were told that it's not like ceremonial composure. We can smile if you want to, and I was just overwhelmed with joy being out on the stage with all these people cheering for me.
The first lady smiled broadly as they danced. Did the first lady say anything to you?
I asked her how her night was going. She said it was going good. She asked me how mine was. I said it was fantastic.
Is the first lady a good dancer?
Oh yeah, she's a really good dancer.
Did you get to her head?
All right, so that's about enough of that. But,
How's your night? Oh, it's good. How's your night? Oh, it's good. You got one shot at this. I don't mean shot at her. I mean shot at having a conversation with the first lady. Maybe, I don't know. Like, what an incredible moment for Melania too, right? The first presidency, or the first round in the office, should have been an amazing experience, but it wasn't, right? Because this cabal made it difficult every single day of the week. 2 impeachments and lawsuits, and just the press was just horrid. And that had to strain their relationship. And at times, she was, and I don't blame her, absent from view for a little bit. This time around, no question, she looks so proud. So like, this is the moment. I don't remember ever seeing her smile and dance as much as we did during the inauguration.
So one thing that they did, the person that was dancing with JD was a fellow Marine, which is why that was, that they picked a good Marine that could dance to go out there with the vice president. And she just happened to be a head and shoulders shorter than JD. That's all.
You know what? He's good. He's got a good sense of humor.
Well, yeah. Anyway, I love that one. There was also, I was trying to find a video, couldn't find it. There was a Medal of Honor recipient that came out and gave a speech before President Trump showed up, and he got out there. Now, by the way, he couldn't have been more than 35, right around in that area. A very young man, a chest full of hardware, and again, Medal of Honor recipient. Most people do not get that Medal of Honor when they're alive. So he did something truly, truly heroic to get that. And by the way, you don't win the Medal of Honor, you're presented with the Medal of Honor. But he's up there, and he says, on behalf of myself, the men that I lead, and all the men here, I want to say congratulations, President Trump. Welcome back. We missed you. And the place went nuts. It was unbelievable. And I just, that again, and again, Mrs. John and my daughter both were, do you need a tissue? So, hey,
really fantastic.
I was sorry. One more thing I'll share. As you know, John, during the day, I actually had to peel off and I had to get some work stuff done. And
there's nothing more important. Nothing.
Except that if I didn't get it done Monday or Tuesday morning would have been rough. Anyways, so on my drive back, I got to listen in to that whole when Trump's signing the executive action documents, executive orders, and the reporters are asking questions. And you're right, he was just fielding left and right. And I'm shocked. Like that question wasn't worded very well, but you got it perfectly. That one was very complicated. You can't, and I'm listening to you can't answer that question. And he's like, there's no way I would tell you, what time or whatever. I thought he did an amazing job. When it came to him saying, I just signed the pardon, I know we're going to talk about J6 in a minute for the J6ers. And then he's like, I want you to take this one and go. Like, go already. I want these people out of, they're hostages. Go free the hostages already. I'm telling you, John, I had that moment. I'm in the car and I'm tearing up. I'm like, oh my God, it's amazing. Justice, in my opinion, it's not justice. Finally, these people are released from being political hostages. Now, justice would be, do they get to they can't have the 4 years back.
So let me just interrupt you there. Let me interrupt you because we're going to go down that road and I don't want to go way ahead of that. And I don't want to jump to that one yet. There's other things. If you guys have not had a chance to do it yet, you've got to go visit whitehouse.gov. It has changed again since inauguration night. Unfortunately, it doesn't. I'd have to clear the cache and the cookies and all that stuff to see it again, but the whole thing opens up with this unreal sequence. And that maybe David, you can, don't, if you already opened it, if you open it, it'll start and it won't stop. So if you want to not open it and then share it,
I'll just share what's there. How's that?
There's music too. So
yeah, that's it. That's the one.
Upper, there you go.
Yes.
It just auto plays. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, see, it's a whole sequence. It'll only play once for you too. So, but anyway, on whitehouse.gov, we can go through and I will show you here. By the way, before I do that, thank you to our sponsor, Steel Rebel Design. Steel Rebel Design does all of the hats, shirts, hoodies, cups, you name it, they do it for us. All of the swag from the Just Our Take show, and we're glad to have them as our primary sponsor. If you go to the site down below, there's a little link down below, and it says merch. You can find a link to the store where you can find this fight shirt. That's the one that David and I both wear to the Trump rally in Bozeman, Montana, and some friends of the show there. They wore that to the Coachella. I almost said Coachella concert because, there is a concert in Coachella. They wore that to the Coachella rally. And then we also have this brand new snow camo Make America Great Again hat. You can get all those down below. If you use the code JustOurTake at checkout, she'll give you 10% off your first order. So Steel Rebel Design, Kim and company, we are so grateful and thank you very much for being the primary sponsor of the Just Our Take show. Now,
do you want me to share whitehouse.gov really quick? I figured it out. A little private window.
I don't, because I've got a
moved on. Let's go. I wanted to ask.
No, thank you.
Okay.
So we're back, baby. We are back. So we're gonna go into some presidential actions. We cannot get a true full number because some of the presidential actions are listed under presidential actions. Some of them are listed under memos. Some of them are listed under remarks, but they're all actions, EOs and such, and they're all over the place here. So we're just going to kind of give you a quick run through of some of these things. Clemency for Terrence Sutton. I just love some of these things that he's done. Grant clemency for Andrew. So he's doing some clemencies right off the bat. Interesting that they do that. It's not often that they'll do that when they come in. He declared a southern border national emergency. That allowed him to put troops on the southern border. And by the way, there's another 1,500 troops going today. I know that that's being headed up by and you'll appreciate this one, Bill. It's being headed up by the 5th Marine Regiment, and those guys don't mess around. And the one thing about the Marine Corps is that they have authorization to operate within the borders of the United States, and they can take command. Once authorized, they can take command of the National Guard. So you're going to see I think some big troop numbers on that border. As I think you said that there was another troop caravan heading up.
Yes, and the good and the bad about that, I'll tell you, the cartels should not be near the Mexican border. Our men and women are highly trained and have the right equipment.
Yep.
The problem is they're not police. So I feel like the media might take advantage of anything that could be seen as, oh, our military is attacking civilians. You know how it is, right? The media looks for anything. So I hope that the 5th Marines know that going in. I know they will. I pray that they do not get caught up in that whole media, bait and switch, where if you remember the big deal about the Border Patrol is whipping whipping the migrants. No, that's called a horse rein. That's not a whip.
Right.
I mean,
so
I think they will do a good job.
They're going to do a good job. I 100% agree with that. And I agree that is a risk. However, I think, and I could be wrong on this, I think that I think it's a different day down there. And, I think just by the sheer numbers, people aren't going to try. I mean, when you see a full armored battalion down there, I don't think you're going to mess with it. Restoring names that honor American greatness. The first one that comes to mind is Denali. They're changing it back to Mount McKinley. Pretty good. I mean, I think we talked about it on inaugural day, in his speech, where he said, we are going to rename the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. I love that. People are mocking it already. They're saying, hey, I looked on Google Maps and it still says Gulf of, Mexico. Trust me, it's going to happen.
John, sorry about that. I read a story somewhere on X the last couple of days. I don't have it with me in my screen, but somebody said that had something to do with one of the EOs from Biden about drilling, and by changing the name to Gulf of America, it voids that EO.
Yes,
I heard that as well, but it's not true. I heard it's not true.
Okay.
No, because
good.
In that EO, he says on basically all of our shorelines that there's no drilling off of any of our coasts. And so that would be almost self-defeating to say only in this one are going to reopen it. You heard Trump, any place and every place they're going to start drilling. I think that was just one of those, somebody came out with I bet that's why he did it. But I think he's doing it because he wants to, again, restore American greatness, which is why, by the way, have you heard him talking more about Greenland? They're serious about that.
Yeah. I thought
the Greenland people are excited. They're actually fired up, right? Because of all the turmoil that's going on in Europe. And they're like, I don't know if we want to be part of that country when we know all the freedoms that America would give us, right? They would have a lot of, can you imagine that place becoming a tourist place?
Yeah. So, and then you see here, establishing, implementing the President's Department of Government Efficiency. That has been done. And as soon as that happened, check this out. You see that? The Doge clock in the upper left?
Yes.
I did not see that.
It's already saved us $9 billion as of now. You can see the clock ticking there.
So that came up as soon as so they had to have some coordination here. I don't know who runs the U.S. debt clock, but there had to have been some sort of organization, because as soon as that thing went into effect, the Doge clock came on there. So that's pretty doggone cool. So if you ever want to check to find out how much Doge is already saved, that's going to be there. Establish independent Department of Efficiency, America First directive to the Secretary of State. By the way, Secretary of State goes in there. He fired the top 3 people in the State Department right away. You're gone.
Can we talk that for just a split second or 30 seconds?
Yeah.
I was so impressed with Marco Rubio, now Secretary of State Marco Rubio, as he already has been sworn in. I don't know if you guys had a chance to see. This is what I love about this administration. So I watched the swear-in. It was the first time Vice President Vance had actually did a swear-in for one of the incoming cabinets, and it was Marco Rubio. And Marco Rubio said, "Hey, can I have a few words?" So he got on the podium. He thanked his family, his Lord, and then he said, "You mind if I do a couple of words in Spanish?" And of course, the vice president, "Sure." And basically, he said the same thing in Spanish that he said in English. And then he looks at JD Vance with the most awesome poker face and goes, "Don't worry, I just told everybody they can save on their insurance if they just switch to Geico."
That's so great.
Which you gotta love that optimism. It was so very genuine. It was so off the cuff and funny. And by the way, I watched some of the hearings with the Senate, and boy, did Marco Rubio shut down all of these folks. He is very well. I was impressed with how well versed he is with all of the things that are going around the world. He knows every region. He spoke deeply and passionately about detailed items.
Well, I love how they tried to trip him up, and not one of them could trip him up. And then at the end, when they started being rude and disrespectful to him, he reminded them that he sat on that board before, and gently didn't say, "You know what, I deserve more respect." He gently nudged them to say, "You're going to be on this side of the table someday if you're lucky." So, hey, how about this one at the bottom? Putting people over fish, stopping radical environmentalism to provide water to Southern California. What a great title to putting people over fish. The Delta smelt.
And that it's not like that was the only issue, but certainly that's the one people will remember.
Right.
Yeah,
Roger on the chat has a good question. He said,
I saw that.
How many presidential orders? So John, do you mind taking that?
There were 8 right after the swearing in, and that's when he went to that to the what is it? What's the name of that arena? Capital One Arena.
Capital
One Arena, and he signed 8 there. One of them eviscerated 78 of Sleepy Joe's previous executive orders. Then he went back and signed an unknown number, because I was getting very frustrated. As much as it was great that he was talking to the press, his was trying to announce what each of the executive orders were, and these people just wouldn't shut up. And there were two girls in the room that kept asking the dumbest questions on the planet. I thought that Jean-Claude Van Damme had come back in there, but anyway, so I went online and was trying to find the total number. It's 50 something on day one. The very next morning, he came back and signed another 100 and something. There's been over 200 so far, but on the first night, if we're going to be technical about that, it's going to be probably in the 60 to 70 range. So let's see, what did Roger have down? I have the list right here of what everybody said. Oh, I clicked on the securing our borders instead. Sorry about that. Where is it? Well, of course, I don't find it. Oh, there it is. So Dave had 91. I had 197. Roger had 50, so he's the closest without going over.
Nice.
Will had 100. Pat had 105. So grand total, I'm still there.
Grand total, you're still there. It was the first day, right? All this stuff's going to happen day one. And also, I'm going to do all these other things, which think about that for a minute. From early to late to very late, and then back at it first thing the next morning. I think he worked more in 48 hours than Biden worked in 48 days.
I saw a post this morning. It said, showed a picture of the White House. It's 6 a.m. and the lights are already on. You know what that means. And that's true. I mean, you know, if you went back and you looked at the presidential schedule of the prior administration, we don't need to say his name anymore. He would get up at 10 o'clock. And that's what they say, you know, and then he would work until 2. So whatever.
Right. And no calls after 7, please.
Yeah.
Need my beauty sleep.
He doesn't know who he is after 7. So you see, here I've gone through all of the presidential actions and I've not found the one that that we wanted to look for. And let's see if it's over in remarks. Remarks. Nope, it's not in remarks. Briefings and statements. Articles?
Which one are you looking for?
I'm looking for the one where he says the end of birthright citizenship.
Ah, okay.
It's probably in this one. But I want it off the website. I don't want it. Keep America safe in aviation. That's a good one.
Oh my gosh. Did you? Oh, for the audience, if you have a chance, you got to read that one. I saw the hearings when they were, the previous administration had somebody going for the FAA chair, and this person was so incompetent. It was almost comedic. It was like watching Chevy Chase in that movie Spice Like Us when he's in the classroom trying to cheat. I mean, they asked this guy, you know, some of the senators are also pilots themselves, and they're asking him, hey, what are the 2 certifications that you need in order to fly? And the guy's like, you need a 2-year college degree. It had nothing to do with it flying, right? It's you need your license, your private license, and your medical record. I mean, I know that, and I'm not a certified pilot. But the people that the prior administration, I mean, they put this guy simply because he was African American or black, right?
Right.
But it was so embarrassing to have somebody up there for the FAA, and he couldn't tell you. He said, I'm not a pilot, so I don't know all these things. And I'm like, you're leading the FAA.
Based on your recommendation, we actually played that the other night. And I think people were as shocked as we were the first time we saw it. And then after that, I played the wonderful congressman that came and said, that because I'm saying, listen, here's the people, not just the people that are being nominated for these positions, but the people asking the questions. And I played when, what was that guy's name? The congressman who said that if you put too many people on Guam, it can capsize.
Oh my God. From Georgia. Yeah. It might capsize it. And that would be a problem. So you got to keep the right number of people on Guam.
Okay. The executive order was protecting the meaning and value of American citizenship. Here's what's interesting, and we can get in and kind of dig through part of this, but the crux of this is that the executive order is in sense saying that the 14th Amendment has been misinterpreted or misapplied to allow for birthright citizenship, and the claim by the Trump administration is that it never grants birthright citizenship. And people are saying you cannot, by executive order, overturn an amendment to the Constitution, which is true. And I think part of this is Donald Trump is saying it's not an amendment. You are taking part of an amendment and you're adding something to it that never meant to be there. Ultimately, he wants this to go to court so that it can be ratified in the court. And again, if you read through, David, do you want to read through what it says?
Yeah, I'm happy to. I'll start at the top. I'll start at the first paragraph. Section 1, purpose. The privilege of the United States citizenship is a priceless and profound gift. The 14th Amendment states all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. That provision rightly repudiated the Supreme Court of the United States' shameful decision in Dred Scott v. Sanford, back in 1857, which misrepresented the Constitution as permanently excluding people of African descent from eligibility for United States citizenship solely based on their race. But the 14th Amendment has never been interpreted to extend citizenship universally to everyone born within the United States. The 14th Amendment has always excluded from birthright citizenship persons who were born in the United States but not subject to the jurisdiction thereof. Consistent with this understanding, the Congress has further specified through legislation that a person born in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof is a national and citizen of the United States at birth, generally mirroring the 14th Amendment's text. I'll continue if you like.
Please.
And this is important here, among the categories of individuals born in the United States and not subject to the jurisdiction thereof, the privilege of the United States citizenship does not automatically extend to persons born in the United States when that person's mother was unlawfully present in the United States and the father was not a United States citizen or lawful permanent resident at the time of the said person's birth.
Let me stop you right there for just 1 second. I think that this part right here is aimed directly at Kamala Harris.
Oh, really?
Say
more. Say more about that.
If we go back to, and I wish that we had Marie on tonight, because we go back to Marie and her deep dive into Kamala Harris and who she is and who her parents were. Her father was here illegally, or her mother was here illegally. One of the two was here illegally, and her father was on. He was here on a diplomatic. What do you call it? Visa. He was on a diplomatic visa.
Mm-hmm.
Mom was here illegally. I think that is directed right at her.
Well, and in the 14th Amendment, that clause was meant to exclude like ambassadors who would come to the U.S. from other countries and spend time here. And in some cases, maybe they had children here. Maybe their wives came with them. And it explicitly, their children were not American citizens because they're ambassador's kid. And when you go back to your country, you're taking your child with you and you're not a citizen here. Yeah. So under that guise, then what you just said about Kamala would be true. That would be very interesting. It would fit.
Yeah. The other one was, and I heard a couple of legal scholars, legal eagles talking about this today. And one of them said that if the design of the 14th Amendment was to give anybody born on U.S. soil citizenship, then if you were here on vacation as a tourist and you happen to have a baby, then that baby is now a U.S. resident, which is just clearly not the case.
Well, I don't know if I shared this with you. In Washington, apparently it's very popular. I had no idea. I learned about this, probably 10, 12 years ago, that people from other countries, and in this case, it was a lot of, I guess, there's like a whole thing for it. People from China are coming into the greater Pacific Northwest.
That's being done all over the West Coast, and it is called birth. So Mrs. John,
vacation, yeah.
Mrs. John works around this deeply in her position, and she's been. Yeah, I believe that Mrs. John can tell you about birth tourism and surrogate delivery for foreigners. We should have her back on the show to talk about this sometime, because there was just a major arrest down in Southern California for this, where they were letting it go for a long time. And by the way, the hospitals make good money off of this.
Right.
Because they actually pay, right?
Yeah, they do. And they usually pay cash. They put a program together, part of that whole tourism. Listen, I'm not going to speak to it. We have to have Mrs. John back on. And if you guys are up for it, we can have her on in the next few weeks and have her talk about that, because she is well versed on it. She's lived it for over 20 years. And I would butcher it. But you're right, David. It is being done all over the West Coast, and it is primarily from China.
Well, it shocked me. I thought, wow. And think about what it costs to do that. So who has access to this, right? You've got to be fairly well off to afford the trip and everything that goes along with it, and then to pay the hospital bill so that your child has U.S. citizenship.
So that
And
they
then
can
my
go to
question,
really good schools here.
well, and that's what I asked. I said, so wait, you're telling me that they're planning 18 years in advance-ish, and they're
Absolutely.
willing to fork out that kind of money to make sure, wow, that's planning.
Yep.
It's even worse than you think, David. My two brothers are unfortunately teachers in Southern California, and I have heard many stories. They teach high school of these Chinese kids that are obviously they're fantastic in every grade, but they live alone, right? The parents put them up they gathered money and they buy homes in Southern California, and these kids actually are not only born here, they go to school here, right?
Yeah.
And they go back and take all of that information, and that's how you end up with TikTok and all of these great advances in China. Is they're taking more than just space and citizenship. They're taking a lot of our knowledge, and this is why I love our president, who says, "Hey, we need to stop this," right? And I have secondhand notice of this and frustration from my brothers to say, the districts, they turn a blind eye because these kids their parents send money to the boosters of clubs and sports. So hey, money talks, bullshit walks. And sorry for the language, but
I can remember being
that's
in
true.
a Costco in California with Mrs. John, and there were 15 pregnant Chinese ladies walking around, and they had 2 leaders that were taking them around. I mean, they have chefs, they have they have a whole condo that they live in, and they have a one of those big vans that they take them around from place to place. And when the time comes, they have their baby, and they have to stay like 90 days or whatever. Again, let's have her on to talk more about that. But I just remember seeing it. The interesting thing here is I don't think that Donald Trump thought with the stroke of a pen he was going to do away with this. I truly believe he wants the fight. And I'm guessing that they have done a lot of digging and a lot of scholarly work to find out whether or not they think they, one, have the votes to do this in the Supreme Court, because it will go to the Supreme Court. And two, if they would win. Now, if you go back and you look at some of the hearings when they were trying to confirm Kavanaugh, this actually came up. This in a roundabout way, this question came up to Kavanaugh, and Kavanaugh, in so many words, said that the 14th Amendment does not give birthright citizenship. So I think it's going to be really interesting. What do you, Al? You are an immigrant. You told your story here on the show. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I had to work for my citizenship, so I'm against these quick action, people getting around the law. And I was reading a story today from I believe it's the Michigan Congressman, Mr. Howard, from May 1866, who stated exactly what the Trump administration has published, where they said, hey, this is the law of the land for citizens, but it was never it was never to include persons born in the United States who are foreigners, aliens who belong to the families of ambassadors or foreign ministers accredited to the government of the United States, but will include every other class of persons. So they were even discussing this in 1866 to say this does not, if you're born in the U.S., but your parents are not legal residents or U.S. citizens, guess what? You're not a U.S. citizen. I mean, they're trying to erase this from the archives. That's what I read this morning. And so I took a screenshot for today's show to talk about it because it has been used and abused by our government officials to represent what it doesn't say there. I mean, it clearly states the people who wrote the 14th Amendment, it was not to give birthright citizenship just because you were born here. You had to be born here, and your parents had to be permanent residents or U.S. citizens. It's that clear. So I agree with the folks who are saying Kamala Harris, her dad was here on a student visa. So guess what? He doesn't qualify. So that means she wasn't a U.S. citizen, right?
Her dad was actually here. Her dad was on a diplomatic visa, not a student visa. And the mom,
right?
the mom was on an expired student visa and had been deported and was still here, which is how she was here illegally. So that's why I said I think that portion of the executive order was written at Kamala. And if you remember, there was a comment that Donald Trump had made that she could not be eligible to be president. And I think that's what they're coming back with. That.
So for us, John, to long story short, for us that did everything right, waited in line, pay all of our fees, and believe me, it's a pain in the butt. If I had to wait 17 years, my family waited 15 years. If you recall on the previous episode where I said, hey, this permanent resident decided to join the Marine Corps to thank this country, and I had to wait 2 extra years for my citizenship. Yeah. So I disagree with how people have interpreted the law and have taken advantage of our freedoms, of our taxes. You know, I'm not a robot, I'm a human being, but I think it's not fair to the U.S. citizens, and the people have taken the right steps, right? It's the same deal that's going on in the border. Why are these people crossing the border? You know, why was the previous administration flying people illegally into the country?
And by the way, they were flying them in all the way up until Sunday.
Right. And to your point earlier, John, about being a veteran, think about it. I'm a veteran too, and I travel for work, and I have to put my hands up, and TSA is touching me in and out and looking at my laptop, but then you're just walking in illegals. Wait a minute, there's something wrong there.
Yeah. That was
so
bad.
I'm against this. So I agree with President Trump, and this is why I voted for him 3 times and proudly, because he is going to represent us. We can help everybody else, but first let's take care of our populace.
So we've kind of monopolized. I'd like to hear Dave's point.
Sorry.
No, you're good. Honestly, I appreciate your perspective. You have a different perspective than either of us could. So,
yeah. And mine might sound a little unpopular amongst the 3 of us, but I'll share. I think people that are here illegally, and I was going to say, and especially the people that did so deliberately to have their child here to take advantage of what they believe is our current law of the land. I feel like that you don't earn you don't earn it. That's not how you become a U.S. citizen. I think the phrase around the jurisdiction of is going to be the one that's going to be hotly debated. And I'll use the word negotiated, not in the sense that I'm negotiating for gives and takes, but negotiated as in, what does it mean? How do you think about it? What is it? What applies to it? For example, I would say somebody who's been in our country for several years, perhaps on a work visa that's been extended several times. Maybe they've applied for their green card. Maybe they haven't received it yet, but they're in the process, and they start a family and they have a child, and they're continuing to work and they're contributing just, in good standing. I think I could make the case that they're living under the jurisdiction in the United States. They are living by our laws. They've put time in, meaning they didn't get here last week on one of the tourist visas. They're here legally through legal process, and they're asking to stay, many of them, for longer. For me, I look at it and say, I think that person would be living under the jurisdiction of our Constitution, living under the jurisdiction of the United States, and therefore I would say their child should be eligible for citizenship. That's my point of view.
I think that the analogy you gave, and correct me if I'm wrong, you said someone that's applied for citizenship and they're awaiting that process.
Or a green card. They're asking for long-term residency or permanent residency.
So if they're applying for permanent residency, that's different, because the only thing that's going to keep them from getting permanent residency is something in their background that does not comply with what we want here in America. So
Sure.
yeah, I mean, I think that I agree with you on that one, David. What I don't agree with is these people coming here, sneaking under the border to have a baby because they're nine months pregnant, and they spit one out. Sorry, ineloquent conversation there. They spit one out here, and now look, we're an anchor baby. Now all of us get to stay, and we can bring the 27 others over here. So that's what's happening.
Yeah. So yeah. So on that I agree. I think it's wrong. And by the way, how many other countries in the world allow for that? I don't know of any. I could be wrong. I didn't look at Canada today, but I don't know of any.
The birthright citizenship is going to be a really, I think it has an opportunity to be a great lesson in the Constitution, the Bill of Rights. I think that all of these things, if it's done right now, and by the way, I'm with you. I'm loving, like when he went out there in Capital One Arena and signed those executive orders and they explained what they were. That is transparency. I absolutely loved that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It doesn't get better than that.
And all of the pundits and mouthpieces and Talib and AOC and just all the crying Y babies. That's right. I said it that way on purpose. These, like, we can't have this person. If Kash Patel becomes the leader of the FBI will be ruined.
So David, could you put up could you put up the link? I have Rashida Tlaib on there. Could you go ahead and play that one for me? It's an X one. And then right after that, I want to show a couple of very, very, very interesting videos that you guys aren't going to believe.
Okay, hold on. Let me get. Oh, I can't wait to hear this. Hold on.
It's our friend Rashida Tlaib.
You got to hold on for a second.
Scott, hurry up, buddy.
Yeah, hurry up, Scott. This woman is a piece of work.
Easy.
I held back.
Enough is enough. It will separate families. It would lead again to continued discrimination. It's shameful that my colleagues are giving into racist fear-mongering at the first opportunity to pass legislation to scapegoat our immigrant neighbors and fuel hate in our communities. I know what's going to happen. It won't just be undocumented. It'll be people like my mother.
Oh, I thought she was going to say people like me. Sorry for the stopping it. I'll let it go.
Who will get stopped and profiled. She has to carry her U.S. passport around? Are we asking people allowed to have documentation? That's what you want to turn our neighborhoods into, is militarization?
I yield the gentlelady an additional 30 seconds.
Gentlelady is recognized.
I just ask all of you to truly understand what this will do to our communities. I urge our colleagues to please vote no on this divisive bill. And it's so important to understand what you're going to turn our communities and our neighborhoods into. We can't allow that to continue to happen. With that, I yield.
Yeah, I would like for her to yield her passport back, get on a plane, and go someplace else to a country that is a better fit for what you're looking for.
The bottom line is, do a crime here, you're going to do time. And like anyone else, like this whole thing about separating families drives me nuts. If I get caught drunk driving and I cause an accident, I'm getting arrested. And if my daughter's in the car with me, guess what? She doesn't get to go jail with me.
That's right. She doesn't get to go to jail with you. Only you get to go to jail. And then she will go into, I mean, depends on your situation at home. But
David, can I, do you guys mind if I add something here? Because this is a broken record that I'm tired of hearing from these folks, right? During the 8 years of Obama, I think there was a 2-year where they had the House, the Senate, and the presidency. Potato had the same thing. They don't care about the average Joe, whether they're U.S. citizens or illegals. They don't. It's all a game for these people. Yeah. And this is why I love our president, because he calls them out. They don't do anything. They just like to sit up there and look at me, so I can get reelected, because they have never, in the 40 years, and I know I've talked about this before, the only guy, and he was crucified for doing it because he helped us legal residents get citizenship, was Ronald Reagan.
Yeah.
Yep.
They never worked. They don't have any, they've never built anything. They've never grown anything. They've never truly used their hands to do something good. All they do is they get up as mouthpieces, and they're just loud and obnoxious, but they have no idea what the impact is when people follow them. Look, the senator, one of the senators in my state, she goes on X and she's blatantly mischaracterizing something, and with it's just emphatic, just you have to believe, you have to follow me. This is going to be the end of the world. It's not. You're gaslit. Am I saying it the right way? Somebody will correct me.
Yeah.
Gaslighting.
Yeah.
It's wrong what you're doing, and factually you're wrong. And you're in this position where you need to rise above all that. Be calm, tell the truth, be transparent, for better or for worse, but don't lie to people. It's nothing worse than you're being lied to. Is nothing worse.
David, can you go ahead and queue up the AOC clip? But you're not going to play it yet. I've got 2 videos I need to show first.
Scott, get that AOC clip up. Okay, it's coming.
Thank you. And sorry, I just got to bring this up. So you guys saw that it snowed down in the whole south, right? Yeah. Mississippi. Yeah. I think it snowed in
Atlanta.
Orleans. It snowed in Atlanta. Yeah. It snowed in Florida.
North Florida. So yeah.
We have some friends in Florida. And one of our friends sent a couple of videos to Mrs. John. And this comes from Gary and Jessica in Florida. And if we didn't know them personally, I would really question these videos. But this is one of the snowballs that they found or collected. Because, when it snows, especially when it's not normal to snow, you go outside and you start making snowballs, right? Something felt a little bit odd about these snowballs. So they're like, wait, this is kind of weird. What?
Literally not doing
There's
anything.
no water. Holy cow.
How is that lighter not melting then?
It's not even wet. Like, it wasn't even trying to melt.
Okay. And then they're like, okay, so let's bring out the blowtorch.
Wow.
This is concerning.
There's absolutely
We're holding
no
snow
way.
over an open flame and nothing's happening.
Maybe it's because it's like too faster than it is.
No, it should be like turning into like water. Oh,
There we go.
There it is.
Okay.
Wow. Okay. What's the explanation for that?
We don't have an explanation. That's just one of those.
Somebody call science.
Okay. First of all, we need to call Bill Nye, the newly, didn't you just get a Medal of Freedom? I'm sure he knows what it is.
He probably does.
But look, it doesn't snow in Florida, especially in that area. That's below the panhandle. Okay. That's not in the panhandle. That's below the panhandle. So it snows and the snow doesn't melt. Are you kidding me? Yeah. I don't know. That's just really kind of crazy and really kind of weird. But speaking of really crazy and weird, let's hear from AOC.
Great transition, by the way. That was really good.
Wow,
okay.
Awesome.
Okay. Hold on.
Trained professional.
I need to get my composure. All right, here we go.
And
she said it. And dumb. I'm dumb. Oh no. That's not what she said. Sorry. Okay.
And one of the most simple things that we can do is just not comply. Today, the Trump administration, and also last night, the Trump administration signed a bunch of illegal executive orders. For example, Donald Trump tried to sign an executive order to end birthright citizenship in this country, which is part of the Constitution. It is day one already trying to shred the foundational documents of American society and try to end birthright citizenship, which basically, as we know, if you are born in the United States, you are a United States citizen. That remains, that is the law, that is the Constitution. And he just tried to sign a piece of paper trying to say no. We don't have to listen to him. It's illegal. We don't have to treat this seriously. It's a joke. And that's not to say that what they're trying to do isn't serious. It is serious, but we should consent in advance.
That's from your congresswoman, and she's telling you you don't have to listen to these people, which is exactly what they're doing with the J6 people. So they give out this J6 pardons, and what do? They say, nah, we're not letting them out because we don't feel like it.
Yeah, you just don't have to. You don't have to. We just don't have to comply. Well, how's that going to work out for you?
It literally took the U.S. Marshals to go into D.C. to the police stations to get these people out of there, or to the jails.
The gulag.
The U.S. Marshals had to go, to the gulag. The U.S. Marshals had to go in and say, no, we are taking them. How absurd is that?
What I don't understand why the people in charge of the jail prison didn't comply. Like, why did they feel like they didn't have to? What was the reason for that?
Well, so I think that there's a couple of things in there, and that's a really good question. One, some of them felt sympathetic to the narrative that police were beaten by these people and that some police died. If you want to bring up, it's at the bottom, Capitol Police Officer. And I don't think that's a video. I think that's just a report, but there could be a video attached. The narrative is that these people, they attacked and killed these folks, and so they had no business being pardoned. So Capitol Police Officer Brian Sicknick was one of them. He died of natural causes, though. This is an NPR, certainly not a right-leaning organization.
By far, they are not right-leaning.
And they are reporting that the medical examiner said that he did not suffer an allergic reaction to the pepper spray. He did not have any other injuries on him. He had other underlying conditions and had major problems. He died of a major stroke or a series of strokes. So, I mean, the whole narrative, and they're saying, who was it? One of the senators came out and said, what would the parents of Brian Sicknick think about this? Well, if they're being honest, it was terrible that he died. No one wanted to see the guy die, but he did not die as a result of the January 6th events.
Right.
Nor did anyone else. The only one who died as a result was, Ashley Babbitt. She's the only one who died during the. Now, I'm going to put out my little disclaimer here. There are people that absolutely needed to go to jail. There were people that were smashing windows, doing destruction. I don't care who they were aligned with, whether Antifa or MAGA. If they were doing destruction in our Capitol, they needed to go to jail. But this guy, Jake, I don't remember his last name, and I'm not talking Jake from Allstate. Jake, he was in there for 4 years and 5 days and had never been into the courtroom.
Right. Which is, by the way, a violation of our constitutional rights. If you
100%.
care so much about our Constitution, which the rest of us do, AOC, I'll just look to you for this one, and Rashid Tlaib, I'll look to you for it as well. If you believe in our Constitution so much, why were you not incensed by that? There should be outrage. I also think that we have plenty of other people who put on their MAGA hats who are in office as senators and representatives who also should have been equally outraged, but they weren't. At least not enough.
Well, the interesting thing is that they're out there saying that Donald Trump has pardoned these people who assaulted police officers.
Right.
And Donald Trump said, you know what? First of all, they've done enough time. You've got people that have committed murder that you aren't even being charged for murder, and you know that they were committing murder. And then he actually mentioned several of the things that, David, you and I had talked about earlier. Portland, how about all of those? There was a police officer who was hit in the eye by a firework and lost his eye. No one got arrested for that. No one got arrested for any of that.
These progressive, peaceful rioters burned cities down. Portland was attacked almost every night for about 3 months in a row. In Washington, this in Seattle area, the group took over a small section of this downtown Seattle, and the mayor said, it's going to be the summer of love. And instead of saying, that's not going to happen, she embraced it until they came to her street. Meanwhile, people were murdered. There was assaults. I don't know what you can and can't say on the channels, but the kind of assault that you wouldn't want for your daughters, I guess, or your sons. And there were, again, businesses burned and robberies, like all the stuff. And then you look at Minneapolis, where Walls, where Walls and his wife enjoyed the smell of the burning rubber. As their buildings are burning to the ground, people are getting killed, and no one thinks there's a problem with that.
Well, here's one of the most offensive parts to it, David. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but we're running low on time, and there's so many more things I need to get in. But one of the biggest parts is Joe Biden, in his 4,500 pardons that he did. Joe Biden actually, he pardoned one person that had killed 2 FBI agents, and he pardoned another person that had beaten a police officer to death with a hammer.
Yeah.
And so I don't remember hearing any of these people complaining about that, but they complained about Donald Trump releasing these people and pardoning these people that that
for
were
trespassing.
For trespassing, right? And again, this Jake guy, 4 years and 5 days, never saw a courtroom.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
And upon being released, sorry, it looks like you're muted. Upon being released, I thought I read, you keep me honest here, that some of them were being asked to agree to an NDA.
That's right.
Yes.
Some of them, yeah. Go ahead.
Why do you need an NDA? What's the NDA for? And no.
They were being beat. They were being beat.
NDA, hell no. I'm telling my story. Not only am I telling my story, I'm getting the best lawyer I can, and I'm coming back and I'm asking for you to pay me because you can't give me 4 years of my life back. But you can certainly find another way to take care of me and my family.
What's disgusting about all of the JC6, and I will say hostages, they arrested an 80-year-old grandmother.
Right.
I mean, really? What did she do? Like you let a criminal out that, thank God, we had a Marine who stopped him from, killing people in a train. So you let this guy out who had a rap sheet a mile long, but you arrest an 80-year-old grandma because she was walking.
You're not going to like this. Hold on a second. You're not going to like this. That 80-year-old grandmother's from Idaho. And she said, I do not accept Donald Trump's pardon because I was in the wrong that day.
Okay.
Right.
Go back to jail.
Okay. Maybe, hey, 3 square meals a day, nice comfy cot. I don't know. I've never been, but I'm going to assume.
Oh, no. Well,
apparently he didn't like what you said.
Okay. I'm going to jump up to another real quick section because that's a big thing too. They said immediately we're going to start deportations. And of course they were hoping that they being the left were hoping that they could find a way to delay it. However,
operations have officially begun with a focus on immediate threats to public safety. It comes as border state Arizona introduced their ICE Act, would officially require the state to comply with ICE detainers, but the state's AG speaking out against the president's plan.
I also will not have any part of and will fight the attempt to set up what I believe are essentially concentration camps and family separation camps in the state of Arizona.
Here to explain it, all borders are Tom Homan. All right, Tom, listen, before I get to these Democratic AGs, can you give me the latest numbers on the border?
Absolutely. Look, the greatest president in my lifetime, he's back. Because in 2 days, the last 24 hours, total apprehensions on the southwest border, 766. Compare that to the 10 to 12,000 Biden had at one time. CBP1 releases, 0. CHNV, Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, Venezuela releases, 0. Total of 766 across the entire southwest border. That is a game changer.
And that is just some of the plans that have been implemented so far. Now let's talk about the 22 governors, Democratic governors that plan on the attorney generals that are doing this. Tell me the legal authority that they have and the legal authority you guys have if they plan on resisting federal law.
Look, I find it strange that the attorney general from Arizona makes such statements because there was a lawsuit in Arizona a few years ago. The Show Me Your Papers a lawsuit in highest courts in the land that said immigration enforcement is a federal responsibility. Federal responsibility. She has no say in the matter. And look, I've said many times, we said right out of the gate, Lawrence, right out of the gate, we're going to concentrate on public safety threats. So she's saying that she doesn't want public safety threats out of her community. I also am insulted by the term concentration camps. Are you serious? You're comparing ICE agents. We just lost a Border Patrol agent to a shooting up in Vermont yesterday, and they're the Gestapo. Are you serious? Concentration camps. ICE has detention centers. They have the best standards in the entire industry. I'll compare ICE detention standards to any state or federal facility or any county facility in the entire world. We have the highest detention standards, so that's an insult and it's a lie.
Yeah, it is insulting to the agents, the men and women that do the job. Let's talk about ICE visiting folks, because when I look at it, I look at the law, people that have final deportation orders, people that are criminal aliens. What would a person have to do to get a visit from ICE?
For it to be in the country illegally, first of all, I mean, there's nothing in the immigration law that says you got to be convicted of a serious crime to be removed under the INA. So if you're in the country illegally, ICE can visit you. But right now, as we said repeatedly, and the President Trump's been clear, we're concentrating on the worst first, the public safety threats and national security threats. And just yesterday, in the last 24 hours, ICE arrested over 308 serious criminals. Some of them were murderers, some of them were rapists, some of them raped a child, some were sexual assault of a child. So ICE is doing their job, and they're prioritizing just as the president said they would. So the ICE is performing excellent right now out in the field, and they're going to continue every day.
Well, there you have it.
And the people, and I want to say the Democrats, but I want to say the cabal instead. The people in the cabal, the ones who are saying, we have to fight this at all costs, support those people, the ones that Holman was just talking about. We want to give them a second chance in our country. No, they don't get a chance. These are not the people. You don't want these people as your neighbors. You don't want them as in your community. In fact, by the way, if a citizen did that, you don't want that person in your community either, and we have jails for that. But certainly, and some of them were released from prisons in other countries, brought to this country, or came across illegally. They're here. They're committing crimes here also. They don't have a right to be here, and they're the ones who need to go first. And you know how I feel about many of the other people that have come across. I feel just as strongly about these people. They need to go first.
Can you do me a favor? We're going to have a lot more to say about this. It's going to get more and more dirty, I think, as this goes on. I think that, the Democrats are going to get their footing on this. And to your point, the cabal, because there's some Republicans that are jump in too, just trying to muddy up the waters. But they're going to get their footing on this, and they're going to find a way to combat it in the press. And it's going to get dirty, but it still has to happen. And, this is where, maybe that's part of the storm too. Can you play Biden on pardoning self?
Yes.
So we're gonna jump around one more time. This is an older clip from back in 20.
Oh yes,
I believe it was. When he was discussing whether or not he would, or how he felt about
pardons.
Yeah, that's a good one.
President Trump is reportedly considering a wave of preemptive pardons for his adult children and for Rudy Giuliani. He's also floated the idea in private conversations, according to our reporting, of possibly pardoning himself, which he insists he has the power to do, though that has never been litigated. Does this concern you? All these preemptive pardons?
Well, it concerns me in terms of what kind of precedent it sets and how the rest of the world looks at us as a nation of laws and justice. Look, our Justice Department is going to operate independently on those issues that how to respond to any of that. I'm not going to be telling them what they have to do and don't have to do. I'm not going to be saying, go prosecute A, B, or C. I'm not going to be telling them that's not the role. It's not my Justice Department. It's the People's Justice Department. So the persons I pick to run that department are going to be people who are going to have the independent capacity to decide who gets prosecuted and who doesn't. Now, in terms of the pardons, you're not going to see in our administration that kind of approach to pardons.
Well, that did age well.
Can you do President Trump? Biden didn't give himself? Back to back. Yeah, that didn't age well at all. You're not going to see that kind of thing happening with us. We wouldn't dare do that because that would set a bad signal to the rest of the world on our legal justice system. But of course.
Oh, yeah, hold on, Hannity. Just hold on a minute.
Sorry.
Just got ahead of himself. Wow. I will tell you when ready for you, Hannity.
Rude's Girl wants to know if preemptive pardons are legal. There is a question about that, and I think that is going to be one of those things that gets looked into, and I think that there might be a hint in this video here.
Yeah. Let's play the video.
Joe Biden ran and said he would never do preemptive pardons. It was an issue that came up when you were leaving your first time.
He heard that I was going to do it. I didn't want to do it. I was given the option. They said, sir, would you like to pardon everybody, including yourself? I said, I'm not going to pardon anybody. We didn't do anything wrong. And we had people that suffered. They're incredible patriots. We had people that suffered. You had Bannon put in jail. You had Peter Navarro put in jail. You had people that suffered. And far worse than that, they've lost their fortunes. They've lost their nest egg, paying it to lawyers. And those people, and people said, and they wouldn't have even taken, most of those people, they wouldn't have even taken a pardon. This guy went around giving everybody pardons. And you know, the funny thing, maybe the sad thing, is he didn't give himself a pardon. And if you look at it, it all had to do with him.
Hey, Sean Hannity.
Oops. He come right out and said it. He didn't give himself a pardon. That's interesting, right?
He didn't give himself a pardon. That's interesting. Wonder what I do with that. Hey, by the way, if you are sane enough, you are in the right mind enough to finish out your presidency, you are sane enough to go before Congress and testify. And this time, it'll be in the public's eye, and there won't be any delay. We won't be able to hold back the videotapes or audio tapes because of national security. Nope, it'll be before the whole world. We'll see.
There's a piece in the news about, and I don't want to go play the clip about it because I just don't want to give this guy any more time. But John Bolton, former national security advisor, John Bolton came out and he's crying now because Donald Trump took away his Secret Service detail. Why does he get a Secret Service detail, right?
FAFO. And I'm not going to say what it stands for, but
yeah, but it's not even that. It's like, you know what? Listen, you crying little boy, you've got enough money. You raped ravaged the country enough to afford your own security detail. Go buy your own security detail if you're worried.
Yeah. By the way, I think 51 people lost their
No, that's different. They lost their security clearance. He was getting a Secret Service detail.
You're right.
Big difference.
That's
Big
a
difference.
difference. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be in trouble now.
He was out there getting, people carrying his groceries for him and stuff like that. No, I'm sorry. You do not rank that anymore. As for the 51 former Intel people that lost theirs, well, they deserve to lose theirs because they lied.
They lied. Yeah.
Right. And John, to your point about this guy, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he raked in something like 12 million on that book that he wrote after he left President Trump. So yeah, he has plenty of money to pay for his own security.
Book deals.
So yeah, we talked about book deals. Book deals are just money laundering. Nobody bought those books.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Does anybody remember who John Bolton is? Come on.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, let's real quickly, David, could you play Catherine Herridge? I think we talked about this the other night.
Is that the one you have teed up already?
No, that's a video. I want the clip.
Come on, Scott, get on it.
I'm gonna just set this up real quick. We talked about this the other night. Catherine Herridge is a down the middle, straight up, legitimate journalist, a true journalist by every sense of the word. And if Trump did something wrong, MAGA did something wrong, she would absolutely call them out. If the other side did something wrong, she would call them out. She would bring details. She would absolutely bring all of the goods to back up her story. Well, she was doing a story on the C-19 back in the day, and the folks over at CBS didn't like that she was calling out some of the tactics of the elf, and so they fired her. And not only did they fire her, but they took away all of her paperwork, all of the work that she had been doing on other stories too. She went out on her own. She's been doing a lot of things now that, yes, he does. Rude's girl went back to John Bolton. He looks like the Muppet. That's right. He is a Muppet. So anyway, she's on her own now. She's doing kind of what Tucker Carlson is doing. And she's doing continued great reporting. Now, she's caught the eye of, I think, Donald Trump, but it could just be some conservative people, and she's being let in on some interesting stories. She's taken a recent trip down to Gitmo, and I'm wondering why, but go ahead and play the clip.
We're on our way to Gitmo.
I'm traveling this week to Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. We've just arrived at the airport, and now we're taking the ferry over to Camp Justice. That's home to the military trials and the military courts. Of course, the big case is the 9/11 prosecution. There is so much secrecy around this entire case. There are a lot of things that we would like to show you, but they're off limits. They're restricted for national security reasons. And what's striking to me is that so many Americans don't even realize that the detention camps are still open. The military trials have still not concluded. And I just felt it was time to check it again for Americans to really see what was happening here.
As the Trump administration begins its first 100 days in office, we are at Guantanamo Bay and we'll be reporting from here at Camp Justice. We'll be inside the courtrooms. We'll have updates on the status of the military trials as well as the detention camps. This new administration is going to have to make some hard choices about the future of this operation.
Okay, so if you couldn't hear, the audio was a little bit sketchy there, but what she's saying is that she's going over there to look into the biggest trials, which are the 9/11 trials, which have still not been adjudicated. However, interestingly enough, there were 37 of the folks, because if you remember, Obama let a lot of them out before he left. Before he left office, they were down to 37. Joe Biden let another handful out recently. There can't be more than 20 something there right now. Okay.
You gotta wonder how many years has it been, and we still haven't finalized.
It's been 24 years, right? Okay, so let's sit on that for just a second. Why is she going back there now? Why right now going back to, of all the places? Look, why isn't she down on the border reporting on that? Right? Hold on, E. I got just a second. I got a video. I want to play the video, and then I want to hear what you have to say. Okay, so first of all, here's another video. That was the first of her reporting. Here's the second.
Amazing what she did in this part 2 video, what she says. I wanted to show you this clip as she's sitting there and what she says. It's pretty eye-opening. Here we go.
Courthouses here at Camp Justice. The oldest courthouse is behind me. This is Courthouse 1. It's been around for decades, but it's no longer used for the military prosecutions. The main courthouse is Courthouse number 2. That's about 200 yards over to my right. This is a high security courthouse that was custom built for the 9/11 prosecution. There are so many restrictions around filming that courthouse that all we can show you is the barbed wire perimeter. There's also been some significant new construction here at Camp Justice, Courthouse number 3, and that was completed at a cost of around $4 million. What's striking is that so many administrations have tried to shut down the operation here. President Obama signed an executive order 13492. His intent was to close down the detainee operations within a year. That has completely failed, and I think it showed a fundamental lack of understanding about the complexity of the legal questions here at Guantanamo. It all comes down to the CIA's enhanced interrogation program, what critics call torture, waterboarding, pressure positions. You just can't unring the bell on that time period. So that is the single issue, I think, that's responsible for grinding these cases to a halt, because there have been endless years of litigation about the evidence and what will be submitted to the courts.
What will be submitted to the courts?
Okay, so you heard her say at the beginning, military trials.
Right.
I'm just going to toss that one out there. And by the way, let's not forget this part.
It's fun to stay at the GITMO.
The YMCA at Guantanamo Bay. But anyway, E, what do you think?
Well, we know of one general we sure like to have court-martial, and why not at Guantanamo Bay?
Well, that would be the only place you could do it, really, because, they have the skiffs over there, which are secure facilities where you can actually have the conversations in there, and you can present electronic and or audio or video information in there. They built, by the way, before Donald Trump left office, there was a couple things that he did. One, he put another $1.5 billion into Gitmo. Why would you do that if there's only 37 prisoners there? At that point, even less than 37 prisoners, unless that they knew that they would end up using it. But to your point, yeah, if you're going to do, and by the way, Brett Kavanaugh, that was another thing he specialized in, was military tribunals. That's part of his background, is a doctrine in military tribunals. So he's kind of an expert there.
So Kash Patel actually talked about aside from Guantanamo Bay. So for our audience, the other JAG court, unfortunately or fortunately for us, it's in Guam, right? So can't fly people to Guam. It's very expensive, right? If you can just take a quick trip to Guantanamo Bay, if you're going to be processing or prosecuting these military cases, you can do it in those two locations. I think financially, it makes more sense to do it 90 miles south of Key West, right?
And by the way, MonkeyWorks has been showing flights in and out and at an uptick right now. The other thing, yeah, that's exactly right. You want me on that wall. You need me on that wall. All right, had to go there. But so you'd be surprised to know, and maybe you wouldn't because of your background, Al, but there is one down in San Domingo. What's that? Puerto Rico, I guess. There's also there's an island off of the coast of a place that Donald Trump wants in our jurisdiction, where we also have another quote black site, and that would be off the coast of Greenland. How about that? Does that make more sense now? It's all coming together.
Yes, yes. My only concern is
sorry, I'm happy about it, Dave. I'm happy about it.
No,
yeah, my concern, John, is we've had too many rogue groups, CIA, FBI. I call them the alphabet groups, and they have to be kept in check. The military, we have our USMJ, right? The Uniform Code of Military Justice. But a lot of these other groups work outside of that. I mean, if you go back to the Reagan years, that they were doing some black ops stuff off the books that Congress couldn't even ask about. And now, as older as I get, the more I realize we should not have those black sites. People should know what's going on, right? The more transparency we have, the better we are as a country.
Agree. Right out in the open. On television, you can even make it pay-per-view if you want. I'm okay with maybe government making a little money showing the trials, but let the public see, let reporters in, do not close down the courtrooms. Be transparent with it.
Let me be. Well, first of all, you can't be transparent with a lot of this stuff because sources and methods would be exposed, and you can't do that. You can't allow people to know how we know what happened during 9/11. It's not something you can do. But here, let me just play devil's advocate here. If you don't have those black sites, then all of these people that were the 9/11 conspirators, they would have been let go years and years ago.
Can I say something about that though? Because I truly believe in conspiracies. the guy, the Cybertruck guy who blew himself up, the official plan in Trump Tower, Vegas, his car burnt, but his passport was there.
Right.
9/11, these guys ran planes into towers, but they found their passports. We should be building homes and palisades with passport material so their houses don't burn down. Like, come on. There's got to be a balance, right? You have to have a balance, because the second you go dark and you methods and sources, really, what are they doing? I mean, look at the gulag in DC. Look what these guys who are just average Joe cops and judges were so egregious and violated the Fourth Amendment left and right to these poor Americans in DC, of all places. What could be going on in these dark black sites that we don't know about? So to me, I'm with David. We got to have transparency.
Well, you will not have transparency on items that would and listen, I think that Donald Trump is trying to do a great job of striking that balance, and he's going to make sure that, and I think one of the executive orders is in there where he talks about overclassification and stopping the overclassification, because that is not an excuse. But there are things, and I lived in that world. There are things that if the other side knew how we gathered information, we couldn't gather information that way anymore, and that's not okay.
I can understand pieces of that, John. I can understand parts of that, right? So how did we obtain the information? How are we able to follow the bad guys? And how do we, put it all together so we can actually take action? I can understand that. Otherwise, you'd never catch the bad guys again ever. They, make lots of changes. On the other hand, when you say this person, I'm just going to say, flew a plane into a building and, killing 3,300 people and causing mayhem for the city and countless other atrocities. Yeah, I'd like to see the trial public. I'd like to see it. I'd like to watch it. I'd like to be part of it, part of the trying of the evidence.
David, to add to that, sorry, John, if I may, to add to that, where is the evidence? And I've seen this many a times because I remember it very vividly, of the flight schools in Florida calling the FBI, calling their Congress and saying, hey, these guys don't want to learn how to land a plane. They're learning how to crash a plane, and you guys need to do something. And nothing happened. And we have Guantanamo, and we have these dark cases. Why?
Let's not conflate things. Okay, so let's not conflate these two things, because I'm with you. And by the way, we've had some conversations, and I was just trying to find there's an account on Instagram that has some really interesting stuff on there without having us get kicked off. Okay, it's the account is, and please go look at this and look through some of this stuff, and you will have a whole new view of what happened on 9/11. The account is NYC_WTC. NYC_WTC. And you'll understand where I'm coming from on this. But I will say this. If we're on the same page and we believe that 9/11 isn't everything that we've been told, and we do know what really happened on 9/11, and yet we don't want people to bury information and or preempt that information, then it does need to be kept dark until it does go public, which I do believe it will end up going public. And I'm with you. I do want to see it go public, because these people that perpetrated that, whoever it is, foreign and or domestic, absolutely need to be held to account. Is that fair?
Amen.
But I'm really sensitive to this, because every time something comes up with national security implications, not okay with them overclassifying stuff. But by the way, I think that Mrs. John told me tonight that that there are some things being dropped here shortly that will make all of our days. And I think that it could be the JFK files.
Also protect that man when that happens, because we know it happened last time. Somebody wanted to rat out what you call the agencies, the 3-letter agencies?
Alphabet soup agencies.
Yeah.
Or Clowns in America. By the way, Clowns in America got a new leader today. Ratliff has been ratified as well, no pun intended, but he is now the official leader of the CIA.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
There was a couple others that I wanted to hit, but I think we've kind of hit them. I don't know where you guys are. There are 3 Rhino senators, by the way, that are trying to block Hegseth. The whole thing with Hegseth came up that out of nowhere, this affidavit came out that said that he was abusive to his second wife. His second wife came out and said that never happened, but they still want to hold. So they've put a hold on Hegseth, and they could torpedo him based on this affidavit from a anonymous source. And again, they've gone to the ex-wife, and the ex-wife said didn't happen. They're also trying to torpedo Bondi's approval. I know that Schiff head, Watermelon Head. Did you see that video, by the way? I wish I had it handy. There's a great meme of him. But anyway, I guess he torpedoed hers for at least a 7-day period. So
yeah, these are people that are clear. They're blocking it. You got to think of as 1 of 2 reasons why. One, we're not going to let you get 1 foothold into this country, Trump. Or 2, oh my God, if you get in, we're all toast. I think it's the second one. We're all toast. You get in, we're in trouble. We can't get away with anything anymore.
Yep, I agree. I think that Hegseth at SecDef is a big one. I know. Oh, the other one that they put on hold for at least 7 days is Kash Patel. So that's going to be held up too, because that's another one. If he gets through, man, stand by.
Yeah, I know. Every time I read on X where like, if Kash Patel becomes the new leader of the FBI, so many people threaten to quit.
Bye.
Oh, that's a bad thing. My Marine friend will appreciate this. If when Kash Patel gets in there, there's a military acronym. It's called BOHICA. So
I don't know what it means. I will look it up so that I can be informed also.
Okay.
But, yes.
Anything else? Listen, there's some things that we didn't get to.
I have one. Sorry, John, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was just saying there's some things we didn't get to tonight, and there's more in depth. Mrs. John sent me something from a I'm just going to call it a snowflake that's really panicked about Donald Trump being in there. And there's a list of like 40 things or whatever that they're really worried about. They're deathly afraid is going to happen with the new Donald Trump. And I want to talk about those because some of them are, I understand where they're coming from. Some of them are like, oh my God, stop watching MSNBC, please.
Right. I wanted to leave us in with some good thoughts, some positive thoughts of why we like the new administration. And I got to tell you, going back to the inauguration day, seeing little X, jumping up and down next to his dad with the counter sniper little tag that he got from one of the snipers that protects Trump. To see that kid stole the show, in my view. But that is why what we're doing. That's why we want President Trump to get his cabinet, is for the future of America. And seeing that little boy smile and jump in the air. And I watched the video where he said, yeah, Dad, we need to protect the president because he's going to save our country. Yeah. I mean, this is a little 6-year-old boy. He's adorable. And he's just, it's awesome. That's the future. That's what we want to protect. And it's so fun to see, his exuberance.
Yeah, agree. Great point. We have a lot of family. We have a lot of families in this new administration, and that's exciting. It's pro-family. It's not so much about anti-abortion. It's about pro-family. How do we focus this on making a community that feels safe, where you have economic prosperity, you can have trust in your government leaders, you feel good about your community, and you want to have a family with this community. You feel good about it. I love that whole direction. It's not about don't go and have an abortion. It's the opposite. How do we create an environment so good that you want to have a family and bring children into the world? I love the term.
Well, and there was another hearing for Veterans Administration secretary, and that was Tom Cotton is the nominee, and he's gonna be a great secretary. But they had crazy Maisie Hirano from Hawaii interviewing him, or asking some questions, and the first question she asked is, "Have you ever, made have you ever had any unwanted sexual advances towards a woman?" And that kind of stuff. It's like, what's that have to do with this job? But anyway, then she says, will you commit to allowing or reinstating not gender affirming care? What's the, oh gosh darn it, where basically he wants the VA to do abortions. He wants the VA to be able, she wants the VA to do abortions, and he goes, yeah, the fact is there is a law on the books from 1992 that said absolutely not, it can't happen. And so I'll follow the law. She goes, well, will you review that law? And he goes, it's against the law, but I would sit down with you and talk to you about it. But there is a law on the books, and if you want to change that law, you're going to have to go through Congress to do it. But the business of the VA is not to perform abortions.
Right.
So,
she was basically saying, hey, skirt the law. And he was like, I'm not skirting nothing. Like, lady, right. I'm a military veteran. Yeah, Congressman. Yeah, he was awesome. I love that exchange, because he's like, we are a country of laws. It's against the law. I'm not going to go against the law. And I was just like, oh, yes.
Yeah, that was good stuff. Okay, one more thing that we're going to talk about on Sunday. We have a handful of things. I'm sure there's going to be a ton more between now and then. Today, Donald Trump was talking about his Stargate group, or whatever, Project Stargate, where they were, Larry Ellison came in there along with a bunch of others, and they were talking about using AI to create targeted vaccines based upon your individual DNA profile. I'm going to tell you right now, and this is my teaser for Sunday, it's not what it seems. That's not what that event was all about. And we'll talk about that on Sunday, and I'll have more evidence for it then, because I did find one more thing, David, I'll talk to you offline about. Other than that, David, what do you got for Sunday?
I'm eager to see any other executive orders that are passed. I'm eager to see the implementation of these orders. I'm also enjoying watching some of the communities that are in the sanctuary states, like California, saying, actually, we decided that we are not going to follow the sanctuary state route. We're going to stand on our own. So I think I'll be curious to see more of those types of responses from communities around the country. And I think there's somebody put something in the comments about expecting ICE to start with the apartment buildings in Colorado. Yeah, I'd like to see more of that Trende. I'm sure I'm saying it wrong. How do I say it correctly, Al? Trende
Aragua. But you can roll the R. You can roll the R if you'd like.
Aragua. I'll figure it out by Sunday. Anyways, I would love to see some of those people that they're the ones, like, those are the ones that need to go. And I would love for the public to just see, like, these are the criminals being evicted. Yeah, we'll start with that.
They did go into Chicago. They had a big raid in Chicago and some other places. So I'm happy to see that they did hit the ground running. The other thing I want to just say in closing, a lot of people have a problem with Donald Trump just getting out there off the cuff. But that's something we haven't had for the last 4 years, is someone that actually talked to the American people about what he's doing and what he's thinking and where he's going. I truly appreciate it more now than I ever did before, that he is open and transparent, sometimes too open and transparent. But I love the fact that he talks to us. And again, I go back to him sitting in that little tiny desk in the middle of that arena with 25,000 people watching as he's signing executive orders and talking about what he's doing. We need more of that. We need more of the transparency and the openness, and I love it.
Yep, agree.
All right, guys, thank you very much for being here. I'm closing as we usually do. Have a blessed week.
Good night, what will we do with this moment? How will we be remembered? Look at the opportunities before us.
This election really isn't about the left versus the right. It's about we, the people, choosing our government and the choice between freedom versus tyranny.
Nobody has a chronic disease burden like we have. Why are we allowing this to happen to our children? Ultimately, the only thing that will save our country is if we choose to love our kids more than we hate each other.
What is going on here is deeper than politics. It is deeply spiritual. We are being called to rise above the hatred and the fear and the evil.
We need to remember above and beyond that we must love our neighbors, that we must treat other people as we hope to be treated.
You want to be a rebel? You want to be a hippie? You want to stick it to the man? Show up on your college campus and try calling yourself a conservative.
America is going to reach heights that it has never seen before. The future is going to be amazing.
Don't you want healthy children? Don't you want a president that's going to make America healthy again?
I come to you today as a former Democrat. I will be a first-time Trump voter tonight.
The people dreamed this country, and it's the people who are making America great again.
American rock and roll.